everybody. Welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here, and I'm joined by Donald as usual. And returning us is our friend Leo. I guess we'll start off this episode by discussing something that, well, Donald's got a little something in his pocket, I guess, that is kind of funny.
A deal went down downtown.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, a few people told me that stuff like low doses of marijuana, or I guess like the craze right now is CBD, but I don't know. A lot of people are like CBD truthers, I guess, and they just say that it doesn't actually do much compared to, like, you need some THC in it.
I was the first CBD truther.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You need the two together. That's the trick. It doesn't matter the ratio.
Yeah.
They need each other like the horse and carriage.
I have heard that, like, even just the tiniest bit of THC, it somehow like activates
the
whole thing.
Yeah, and that seems sensible to me. I don't know. Since this is another thing too, I 100% trust you guys when you say that, but I'm not sure why I should. Do you know what I mean? It's like you know what I mean? Like I agree with you,
of course,
and I'm like, oh no, and you know what I mean? Like, so if I like talk to a doctor about it, I'd be like, oh no, Leo said, and then I would, in my mind, that would be like enough evidence in my mind. I don't know, but anyway, so I went, but like, I mean that, like, you know, you read all these things on official websites and stuff that say like, oh, you could just take CBD and you don't need the THC and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, no, that's not what Leo said or something. You know, like, I don't know. Anyway, so I went down, I don't know, I heard about it more and stuff, and I kind of like got into a thing where I was like, well, there's no reason now, especially with it's legal here and stuff. There's no reason not to try it. It's just being stubborn to see if it not, you know what I mean, at some level, if it's just like a low dose and I'm taking it in a capsule or something like that and whatever, it's not like whatever. Okay, so I don't know, and I also have kind of like I'm trying to like undo some of my oppositional defiant disorder kind of thing where I kind of make sure that I go against my stubbornness sometimes. So anyways, I went to Toronto and the other day, and I went into one of those, like, they have retail outlets which are sort of like licensed by the city, like by the province and all that, and it's all, you know, it's all fancy now. And it was so funny in there because it's just the whole room was the size of a bedroom kind of, and it looked like a super hyped up Apple store. Just like really everything.
Yeah, that inner city kind of dispensary. It's extra modern.
Yeah. And it was so, I don't know, like packed with people. And I would say 90% of the people in there were people like me that are like, just have no idea what's going on kind of thing, really. Like I have only understood this kind of stuff through osmosis, because I guess if people have more experience, they're probably just still getting it from people that they know or whatever, I guess. But anyways, it was just so funny to me, like, you know, reading labels and stuff and like making the face like you kind of know what's going on or something, you know. and then I ended up getting, I guess, like I read that like the standard dose on like a lot of states in the US, they consider an edible of 10 milligrams of THC the standard dose or something like that. Like, I don't know, I read that. So I was like, oh, that seems sensible or something. So I got that. And then I read later that, I don't know, we'll have to hash this out, but like 2.5 milligrams is a better place to start or something. So maybe I'll have to get, I don't know, I'll have to figure out the details. Because they said if you've got anxiety, you should start slow or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, if you're prone to panicking, you definitely want a 1-to-1 or even a 2-to-1 CBD ratio to start, and you want to start probably on hybrid or indica, and maybe start at 5 milligrams and work your way up to like 15 and see how you feel. I'm your bud coach and bud tender, Leo.
Yeah, it's funny because I have no concept of like what will happen, kind of thing. Like there's no mental, so it's just like it's like reading. I don't know. It's like reading about going into a portal to another world or something like that. It's just like, no, I'm like, oh yeah, the 2.5 and the 10. Yeah, that's those good old numbers and that relate to some sort of experience that I don't
infamous
understand.
Ratio.
10's a nice round number, right? It sounds like a very sensible place to start. 10, yes, of course, 10.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's the nice thing when you have these things that are taken up by the whole population, because you get this folk wisdom that you can basically trust, because enough people have done it that it's at least decent. You can ask your friend who's maybe a little bit wiser to refine it, but you can get the general sense just from going out and about and asking the town crier and the watchman.
When they say like 10 milligrams, are they saying THC or CBD? Like, what is that measuring exactly? Do you know?
So it's in the pill. It's 10 milligrams of THC.
Of the THC,
Yeah.
okay. Because
and then there's not much CBD in this one, so I might get something different. That's
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is gonna bore listeners, but how much did it cost for one?
Oh, I don't even want to get into it. No, it's not. It's not. No, but
you had to do something.
It was pretty expensive.
A little strange for it.
Oh no!
Donald, please.
No. I heard about somebody losing their hands recently. I hope it didn't get that bad.
Oh, the furry guy. You're talking about the furry that lost his hands?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to be subtle.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
don't know what happened. I don't identify as a furry, but yes, that I did lose my hands.
Well, yeah. I hope you enjoy it, and
if you enjoy it,
yeah. I mean, I guess you can't really do like half of it or something, but.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's easy to order more and stuff or whatever, so it's not like I could just try a lower dose or something. So, yeah.
Sure.
But we'll see.
I've done the CBD thing once, but I was already like smoking, and I could tell that it had some kind of effect, but I couldn't really tell you.
In my experience, it's a mild anti-inflammatory. Like, even if you have it on my girlfriend's got a lot of pain from health issues, and anyway, there's just a THC stick and a CBD stick, and you can put one in the same place and try that the next day, and the THC stick is going to take away the pain, while the CBD is just kind of going to be a mild anti-inflammatory. They really need to be together. It's kind of like the state and the people. They need to be one thing.
That's Giovanni Gentile's theory of CBD.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know. It's funny though, because you also get like a lot of, I don't know. I mentioned it on Twitter a few times and immediately got a lot of advice, like warning me or stuff like about different things, kind of thing. They're like, people just randomly, I don't know. At first I was like, oh, this is going to be, I don't have to like worry about it, kind of thing. I don't know. And then anyways, I got like a lot of, because people on Twitter, a lot of them are trying to be like problem solvers, but they just give you more problems all the time, kind of thing. Where you're like,
oh, okay.
You tweet and
if you get the 10 milligram, then you break it in half. But then you want to go to the other store to get the 3.5 milligram, and you mix those together. But don't get the red one, because that's got some unreliable ratios. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the perfect example just happened on my Twitter, where I made a joke about earlier today about why didn't the Reichstag impeach Hitler after he did all those bad things or something like that, kind of thing. Like, shouldn't they have convened and said, hey, wait a minute, like Hitler's doing some bad stuff.
What bad stuff? Like,
okay, yeah. I don't know. But anyway, so that was just the joke, whatever, right? And someone responded to me a few minutes ago saying, well, the Reichstag was basically dissolved for years, and it only convened a few times before being finally like it totally like a missile straight to, well, actually that's a inaccurate part of your joke, kind of thing, where it's like, and the thing is,
they really want to help. And sometimes you're ruining the joke, but your urge to help and help them be accurate. Yeah, I don't know what to call that. It's just such a strong impulse sometimes.
Yeah, and this is the thing that is like that proves that my brain has been ruined by Twitter. I made the joke, before I posted the joke, I looked up the Reichstag and the German Reich during, and I
Yes.
looked up whether or not it convened after 1933, because I didn't know if they had convened enough times that they could have theoretically impeached him, or if it was just disbanded after the Night of the Long Knives or something like that. So I actually had already internalized the reply guy mentality
I understand completely. I would send people incorrect fact checks to their jokes, and then they'd reply apologetically, like, "Oh, sorry."
That's pretty good. I'm gonna start doing that actually.
Oh no. Yeah, I used to do that like years ago on like when Facebook, like when arguing all day on Facebook was a thing, kind of thing. Like after a while, I started just I don't know. I had this weird impulse where I would just like things that people said that were dumb, and then like give them a little comment, like "you're in the right direction here" or something like that, kind of thing. Because I just thought like it was a satanic thing to do. That was fun. Like, just encouraging people down the wrong road or something. Like yeah, oh yeah, you should check out this anarcho-capitalism kind of stuff.
It's got
great.
it's dynamic. It's a dynamic field. There's a little something called the dark enlightenment, and you're gonna learn a lot that you did not know before today.
Sure.
McLand is a political prisoner.
Yeah. Cool.
I like to smell marijuana. The meditation.
We'll use that for the music, I think, for the end of this.
Sure. Yeah.
I think so. All right, I'm going to talk about absolute immanenticism of the theory of the immanent, the divine encompasses in the material world, or what?
I don't. Yeah, sure. You start, Leo. Nothing. Okay.
I don't know.
No, it's just God is present throughout all things in the world as He's a transcendent figure.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that a little
bit.
Did
you do that before on another episode?
Oh, right. just briefly. I mentioned Ibn Arabi and his idea of Wahdad ul-Wujud, which I can never pronounce that when I'm on mic for some reason.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But it's like the unity of being, and yeah, the idea is that like everything comes from God and that there is no real differentiation, but that this world is kind of like the realm of differentiation. So there's this concept of like you need to see with two eyes to see God, and one of them is that you see his similitude in all things, so you see like that God is there, and then with the other eye you see his transcendence of all things, so you see that he's not there.
Yeah, exactly. You can even bring that to a practical level where you say you'll have your average Roman Catholic atheist sort of person who in a day-to-day experience doesn't feel the Holy Spirit or even think too much, even if they pray. But then there are moments in life where they're like, oh, there must be something transcending the material world to make sure these outcomes don't become too horrible for me, like piles of coincidences that save your grandmother's legs and things like that.
Yeah,
like present but not reduced to it kind of thing, like the so yeah, I think that's true. Actually, just even to get back to what I said before too, when I
did you feel that in the CBD shop?
That pretty much. No. I looked up like the rules on like Catholic FAQ forums and stuff or something. I was like, hold on a minute, because we talked about it before on another episode, right? Like you and I, Tom, about some of like the Islamic kind of stuff about like intoxication and stuff. And so I wanted to know about like the rules about intoxication. And it's funny because I guess, it's one of those things with most things in Catholic thing where like there's a big debate where like you have a lot of different officials in the church kind of saying like putting out press releases saying stuff
Yeah,
like
fatwas and stuff.
yeah, and saying that like it's going to be the worst thing that ever happened, and kids are going to like take marijuana and then fly a plane into a building, or that kind of stuff. And then the actual like writings and like the standard, the manual, basically kind of stuff, like the catechism and all that. It's much more kind of if it's therapeutic and it's not primarily like you're not just trying to get super high or something like that, then
I'm so high, I will ball till I die.
so that's one of the reasons why I really did like look up like, I was like, well, I shouldn't get like some, I don't know, monster dose thing or something where it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, when you first take the heroic THC dose, it can be pretty wild. You get the childhood redrawn through, the colorful shapes, and each piece of your childhood memory transfigured into another piece, and it's all in the shape of your dead dog's head.
I wonder what it will be like, because you're like an adult, and I think for most people they try this stuff out when they're like teenagers mostly, right? Like that's the most common thing. So like I feel like it will be.
Tom, when did you first illegally smoke the dough?
I think I was like 16 or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, how about you?
I was 17 at a small party at my friend Ray's house with our terrible post-hardcore band that I'd become the substitute drummer for. And we just passed around a pipe with like 7 of us smoking like I don't know, 2.5 bowls, which got us all completely high, of course, because we were
really?
teens.
We didn't really get high the first time. It didn't really work or something.
I think it's just because it's hard to smoke when your lungs are virginal.
Yeah, you don't really inhale properly. I think that's the thing. Yeah, just to set the setting for it, we were in India and we went over and got some hash. It was like 10 grams of hash, and got some cigarettes and like took the tobacco out of the cigarettes and like re-rolled it with the hash in it and tried to smoke that. And yeah, we were just coughing up a storm, as you can imagine. Like we weren't like cigarette smokers or anything either, so it was like yeah, it was harsh. And we smoked a lot of those things. I think like 3 or 4 spliffs, and I don't remember feeling high. I remember like we had like a sleepover at one of my friends' place, and we were watching some movies. I don't remember what the movies were, but we tried it again the next week, and then we're like, "Oh, this works." Yeah. So.
Come to Charlie, make me holly. Oh, I have a theory. About why reggae and ska were so popular in 1992 to 1993 with white college students, as portrayed in the 1993 film Biodome starring Pauly Shore.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm curious.
Because Bob Marley was half white, so he spoke to those people, even though he came from another land.
That's an interesting theory, yeah. I was watching King of the Sting yesterday, and Theo Vaughn mentioned that he used to be into ska when he was a teenager, and he said he used to go to concerts with bands like Skinny Puppy. That was his example of like a ska band. I was like, what?
What kind of ska is that?
Yeah.
That's like system administrator ska.
Did you get into like the ska punk craze in the 90s, whatever, like when you were overseas, or no?
Me?
Any of that kind of stuff?
I had a friend who was really into it. He was into that stuff and psychobilly and Oingo Boingo.
Oh,
okay.
Just terrible.
How did he dress?
Like Tim Burton character, like
velvet breeches and
had big spiked out hair and like kind of gothy, kind of very pale, and then
my identity is everything you purport to hate.
He wasn't into like the whole depresso goth kind of thing though. He was like a very personable, fun guy. Everyone liked him. He was a very good artist.
Those guys, those guys who they're visibly part of a subculture, but then you talk to them and they're just regular guys. I appreciate those guys. Let's give them a shout out.
Yeah, shout out to the subculture ambassadors.
Boingo Boingo. Did you know that they were like huge Ayn Rand guys?
No, I didn't know that.
So yeah, the Oingo Boingo were huge Ayn Rand guys, and I knew this because when I was like a libertarian as like a teen, like late teen kind of thing, in that kind of it's a lot different now. Like then there wasn't really much like of a culture around it kind of thing, like like libertarian kind of stuff. So people just would get really into like the 5 bands or whatever that like said that they liked Ayn Rand or something. So people would listen to like Rush a lot. Rush had that like Closer to the Heart song, whatever. And that's the lyrics for that are actually Ayn Rand thoughts or whatever kind of thing, like about the building a new reality and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, because Neil Peart was the drummer. Anyway, I find that funny that like just you have to become a fan of Oingo Boingo because you read Ayn Rand as like a teenager. Like, that's the coolest teenager around, or something like
Teens
that.
do make some great connections, don't they? Don't they?
Yeah.
Wasn't like Offspring kind of into that stuff too?
I don't know.
I've heard that.
I have a very vivid memory of an Offspring CD playing in my friend Ian's house while I was trying to restring his Stratocaster, and I got stung in the finger with one of the guitar strings. You know how they're sharp.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I just bled all over myself all night to the sound of "Pretty Fly for a White Guy."
Yeah. Did you play guitar pretty well, or like I know
I barely did. I was just a drummer.
So
I was pretty good at guitar for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I taught myself and everything.
Cool. Yeah, so growing up, my parents, I don't know, I feel like for a lot of my youth, I was just almost like a zombie or something. Like I just kind of went place to place and didn't feel like a protagonist kind of thing. Like I just kind of, went places and did things. And my parents.
Some people would say that meant your parents raised you to not be a narcissistic youth, and instead be a full member of the community.
Yeah. So my parents were like, you need to like do lessons or whatever, or something. They just knew that was like what kids do kind of thing. So they signed me up for guitar lessons, and I would go there, and he would write out like the tabs for songs that I brought in on cassette kind of thing. Like he just would write out what they were, and then he'd be like, you need to practice, and he would like try to show me stuff, and I wouldn't do like almost anything. Like I would just kind of sit there, and instead of like being like, maybe I should, I don't know, talk to the parents or whatever, we just did that for, I don't know, maybe like 2 years or something like that kind of thing. It just kept, so I actually didn't learn almost anything. I just kind of kept going, and then like sitting there, and he would like write out for like an hour or whatever, like write out the tab notations for like a song, and I'd be like sitting there, and
you have to give him credit. He kept doing the job.
Yeah, well, I mean, he collected the money. Yeah, like he was fine, but within his way. But like, I don't know, it was very strange in retrospect. I was like, wait a minute, why did I do that? That was just strange. But I ran out of songs that I wanted him to write down, so I would just like come in with like dance music songs or something, and he'd be like, this doesn't have guitar in it, and I'd be like, oh man. I'd be like, I don't know, and so I remember I was like in grade, I don't know, 9 or 10 or something, and there's this guy in class was like, oh, you play guitar, and I'm like, oh, I've been taking lessons for 2 years, and it just became immediately apparent that I didn't know anything about it, kind of thing, and like didn't know how to hold it correctly or anything. And the guy was like, oh man, that's not good. So like when you have like you're a youth and you get that sense from someone where they're like, oh, you don't know anything about this, do you? Yeah, kind of, I don't know. It was so fun. It's funny to me in retrospect, but like at the time I was just like, what's going on here? I don't know. So yeah.
Do you guys remember when Lil Wayne tried to start a rock band? And
yes,
he went out on stage with a guitar, and it really looked like he had never tried to play one before. Like he didn't know really how to hold it.
No, it was really sad. I wonder if that was when he really got addicted to the codeine.
Yeah, that was kind of seemed like the peak of his
his
codeine
life
thing.
seems really sad to me once you see all these lawsuits against Birdman for molesting 12-year-old rappers and saying, let me peep on that booty hole, boy, shout it. He's really a pedophile sex predator, and Lil
Yeah.
Wayne made 1,000 songs about hanging out with his daddy. R.I.P. to Lil Wayne's dignity.
Yeah. Birdman's next album's going to be called "I'm the Black Jeff Epstein."
Yeah.
That oil derrick he built it's a secret hatch for a lair not unlike Jeffrey Epstein's. If you recall, he started an oil drilling business and got an oil derrick tattooed on his cheek.
Oh, is that what
Wow.
that's about? I didn't realize that was the reason for that.
It ended in bankruptcy, sadly, for Birdman, but I'm sure it's still perfectly useful for whatever criminal activities turtle-faced guy like that is getting up to at any given time.
Yeah, they should go after him after they wrap up with R. Kelly.
Yeah. You know what bothers me? It seems like the feds they target minority politicians, especially in cities. It's like a targeted thing since the 80s, just to make any black democratically governed city look corrupt and inefficient. Why aren't they at least focusing on the real criminals who are Birdman? That's all I want to ask.
I think that's probably true. Like, I don't doubt that at all. But I think it's probably also the case that a lot of people, like black folks especially, who get into power and whatnot, that they're probably compromised in some way, all like as a sort of, that's the reason that they're able to get to those positions. And so,
you're right.
sometimes
It's
they
what
just pull the string.
Bruce Ford and Glenn A. Dixon call it the black misleadership class because they rule in their own self-interest, a lot like the white misleadership class, which is also democratic.
Yeah, I was reading about the Franklin scandal, with Larry King, who was a big black Republican dude on the rise, and then that destroyed that career. But Clarence Thomas was a close friend of his and was
that's a very interesting connection.
Yeah, very, very gross and bad people.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is Corey Robbins' idea, but the idea that Clarence Thomas's legal foundation is that America is so racist that any law that would benefit black people will just result in things becoming even more racist against black people. It's pretty mental.
What? That's how does that work?
That's his legal theory. It's potent. It's kind of like if you pass a law to protect minority voting districts, say, then it'll result in a backlash that will make minority districts even weaker in some special way, which is actually that really happened. That was a deal between La Raza, the Latino group, and then an African American group, I don't remember, between them and the Republicans to make majority minority districts, so there would be a minority representative, but it would ultimately give more power to the Republicans because they'd get more other voters and more other territory that just didn't happen to not have the minorities in it. That's a tangent, but it's a piece of sordid identity politics history.
Dirty business.
When I read a few years ago, I wrote a paper about the Civil War for university, and one of the interesting things I learned about the Reconstruction period that I didn't really know is that almost immediately, like as the war was ending and started transitioning to, the new states setting up whatever better institutions or whatever, white soldiers that came home, whatever, and became like terrorist groups pretty quickly, like just openly kind of like terror. And what happened?
Yeah, it was kind of like you could compare it to Napoleon going into Spain and beating the Spanish army, and then suddenly the entire country is fighting the French army. Just all of the white men in the South just got on horsebacks and got rifles and knives and just started killing any black people, any black leaders, any black people they could find, really. And especially white people who were helping them set up institutions.
Yeah, and that I read really like there's this, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was really quite interesting, where what happened was the new kind of like black leadership that was emerging, like there was this huge increase of literacy and sort of like civic activism and all that kind of stuff right away, and they started electing black representatives pretty quickly. And what happened was like very, very organized, very, very planned out, that they targeted very specific types of leaders that seemed to have like a, like seemed to be rising quickly and seemed to be representing kind of ideas of equality, and then just target and kill those people. And kind of it was like, okay, this is it was like it transitioned immediately from, okay, we lost that kind of war, now we have to kind of, and I always thought, I knew there was like a counterattack like years later that, like, it became sort of like openly white supremacist
It's
for
just
years
not
and
the
years.
normal narrative that
yeah.
once the war ended, they came back and they took back control by terror.
Yeah.
And the North didn't do anything at all to
Yeah.
stop it. Yeah.
And I think there's like a continuity there from that to now, where there's still like the police, there's like a presumption that, and I mean stuff like Detroit or whatever, and different things being put under, going bankrupt or whatever, and going
the
under certain types of special
manager
administration.
law.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes like a widespread way that things operate in the United States, if the right wing trend kind of continues, where like you see even like states or whatever put under sort of like indirect control or something. Or, I mean, I think, I don't know. And the federal government, I always make a joke about it, but I do think that like even the federal government could reach a point where there's like a consortium of banks or something that basically dictates policy at like a micro kind of level, like happened in Greece or something like that kind of thing. I could see that happening for like a whole country other than like a major country or something like that too, just because, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, where it's always the state of exception. In Michigan, there was a ballot measure to get rid of the emergency manager law. And as far as I remember, it passed. The people voted yes, but then the legislature just said, no, we're not getting rid of this because it's heavily Republican controlled and very corrupt.
I don't know. Yeah, it's scary. I don't know. I find that kind of stuff like, yeah,
especially since the Democratic Party is so, they have such a narrow strategy at getting back these huge swaths of the country that they've just given up on. That when you let the other side just write the rules and pack the courts for so long, is it ever possible to win those things back? I don't know.
Yeah, the Democrats seem to only want to win if they can win it in a way that's, suits the big stakeholders and stuff behind them.
Exactly.
They don't care about, like, if the GOP is running things, that's preferable to having like genuinely like democratic thing that's going to be pushing back against the big money interests and all that kind of thing. Which is, I don't know, that's bad.
Yeah. Did you see the first really big anti-Warren thing came out yesterday? She was part of the defense team or did consulting for Dow when it had that case in the early 90s against the silicone breast implants.
Right.
And I just happened to know somebody who had the horrible sickness from them. That's basically, you could say it's worse. It feels worse than chemotherapy. It's worse than any immune disease you can imagine from these medical devices that they first tested by sticking in a dog for 3 weeks. And just to have the ethics to say, okay, I'm going to defend Dow on this one when you have all these disfigured women. It's just, I don't know if you're going to be the second runner up for whatever left vote for Bernie, if that's the kind of stuff you were doing before you had your conversion.
Yeah, she gave speeches to like the Federalist Society and all those people, and just to be frank about it too, I don't think that she's the expert that people think that she is. It's almost like a Paul Ryan situation where everyone is talking about it and they all say that she is. and she was like at Harvard Law and stuff, but she was like on Dr. Phil and stuff, and like she did all this. I don't know, like in Matt Brunig, who I trust on like this kind of thing for sure,
Yeah.
explained her book in detail, kind of like went through the argument, and the argument just doesn't make sense. Like it just doesn't, like the whole thing really is easy to pick apart. And I feel like a lot of these people have like maybe very specialized skills in one area about bankruptcy law or something. Like I think that's fine. I'm not saying like she's dumb or something.
The idea that she knows every nuance of every policy is it's just a myth made up to help her career.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we know she can't read. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, that's a trouble many women are struggling with. I've heard this. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's false. I'm not saying anything about it.
Yeah. Do you guys want to get into the questions now? You think it's a good time for questions? Okay. Let's go into some of the more recent ones here. So, I thought this was a funny comment. Great podcast on climate. Don spoke more than normally and sounded very comfortable. What do you think of Pierce Corbyn's claim that Thatcher invented warming crisis to promote nuclear energy and break up mining strike?
Should I answer or okay?
If you have any idea what that's about, I don't know.
Okay. Who is it? Pierce Morgan? Did you say? Or
this is
who?
Pierce Corbyn, or maybe Corbyn.
Okay, so, what the person's saying is that Thatcher, when she broke the coal miners' strike, actually did put out different things about the environment being one of the reasons why she was doing it. Like they actually did have a spin team that, like part of it was saying, we're going to transition away from coal eventually as like a major part of the economy and all that kind of stuff because it's so dirty. And there was competing theories at the time, I guess, that like there was actually a group of people that thought like that global cooling was happening, and there's also and then global warming was one of it. And I don't think it was until the 80s and then early 90s in like kind of earnest that global warming became like a big issue. But anyways,
there are about 3 points that I can see here, and one is that global cooling was something they talked about in the early 70s because there was so much dark pollution like from burning coal and just old-fashioned Victorian smokestack sending really big particulate into the air. And once they started filtering that out, they realized the bigger problem was the greenhouse gases and CO2. But there's like a weird British left opposition to the idea that climate change is real. I think because of Thatcher, because they used the environment as an excuse. Because they're all based on all these models and stuff, and if you want to muddle around with it, you can find a way that it's not true. Actually, I read a column on Counterpunch, I think, and it's just from a couple months ago. He's been on an anti-Greta Thunberg, the autistic Swedish climate teen who somehow knows all the heads of state in the world. He's been on an anti-her crusade, and he was basically saying that climate change isn't real and it's something that the elite want us to believe so we can close the borders down and commit to more wars. Like, I don't know. It seems like it's pretty real to me. The climate seems a lot different now than it was 5 years ago.
Those kinds of arguments, I always wonder, like, why they don't need a reason. They would just do it. It's the same thing with like 9/11. Like, oh, we needed to do this 9/11 thing so that we would have justification to start a war. Like, when has that ever been a problem?
Yeah. Well, I remember even like 10 years ago or so, a lot of different like leftist websites would sometimes have other, like a socialist appeal or whatever, Marxist.com or whatever it's called. Alan Wood's Trotskyist people. I remember them putting on climate skeptical kind of stuff. And it was just the turning point where that became like a faux pas kind of thing, like where they started to get like people yelling at them, being like, don't put that kind of stuff on. And I'm kind of imagining it now. I mean, Counterpunch has always been like, they attract kind of criticism from people. They don't really worry about that kind of thing. But I'm imagining like, I don't know, Jacobin or someone doing that. That'd be funny because nowadays you would just get like dogpiled to like death or something. You were like, climate change, might be, I don't know.
What is up though with people getting so antagonistic about this this girl. It seems
Yeah.
like there's
Well,
been a
it's because she's connected to the same George Soros New World Order, quote unquote type of people. Just all the same big international foundations and the same big international names. It's obviously like a partially manufactured campaign. I'm sure they had some big "let's stop climate change" in the works, and they were just waiting for a good front person. So an autistic teen starts a campaign in Sweden, and her parents are important. They're not that important, but they're somewhat important. So maybe she's on the radar. So they pick her up for the big campaign. I don't see anything too sinister in that. I think they do that with a lot of stuff.
yeah. That's what's the big evil there exactly?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of had an impulse at the start to go against it, like to troll against it and kind of, but I can't do it because she seems pretty earnest and everyone seems, I don't know, like excited, like a lot of people seem excited about it and stuff. But my kind of like initial take on it was she doesn't know about climate change. Like she's like 16 or whatever, you know. She has never been to university for science. She's never, you know, I haven't, but I don't like go around being like, oh yeah, this is that. She's probably, you know, she cannot read the reports. Like she doesn't know what they
Well,
mean,
yeah.
and obviously, yeah. So and
Yeah, she's
it's
a mascot.
so she's excited about something she sees happening around her that she has a pretty big hunch on, kind of thing. And I'm like, that's good, but you know, I don't know. Like, and I think it's good that like the youth are climate marching and stuff like that, but it's not the same as like marching against the Vietnam. I mean, you know, like I'm pretty sure Vietnam exists, kind of thing, because they could, you know, they could look on a map or something like that and be like, maybe we shouldn't bomb there because, you know, that makes sense to me. Like a 15-year-old being like, I'm against the war because I'm against war in general. I know what violence is, whatever. 15-year-old, I know if I was 15 and I was protesting this kind of stuff, climate change and stuff, there's sort of like there's a little bit of a disconnect there where I'm kind of saying I've heard about this thing and it seems bad to me.
Right.
You know, it's not the
Sure,
same as
yeah.
kind of like, you know, I don't know. So I thought that was kind of a funny angle to take, but I decided to kind of give it up because
A little bit too mean.
yeah,
That is the 90s like in Biodome, like I was talking about earlier, that 90s protest culture where it was like save the whales or we have to help the rainforests
yeah,
or save the spotted owl. It was just some kind of abstract good thing that needed to be protected by demonstration.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which has now kind of become a lot of the woke stuff has become kind of taking that role over, I think.
yeah.
There was a really good article, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was just about, it's by that guy Musa El Grabi, who wrote a little bit about Syria, just but writing about his time in Yale and how at first he saw a lot of run down looking kids or kids who said they didn't have money for lunch, and he'd later find out that all but like 2% of them or whatever were rich and had millions of dollars in trust funds. And he talked about how they used the woke fog to sort of find an identity where they can exercise power without feeling embarrassed about exercising all this power they had, and just trying on these normal guy caring a lot about other people's problems identities to cloak whatever they really are, which is just, you know, the next set of powerful people in the country.
I like that term, woke fog. That's a good one.
Yeah.
It does. It permeates like fog. It lingers like fog, and it makes things blurry, like fog.
Next question is, how do you guys deal with clout sharks? As I don't have to deal with clout sharks.
I think this is mostly directed to Donald, so I'll let him answer, and then I'll answer.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I guess I just get blocked by them. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like if they mean in our kind of area of the internet, journalists that are trying to build careers on top of other friends that they have and stuff that are in like a hostile, vicious way or something, you know, and then they turn on people quickly, when it suits them. I guess that would be.
Yeah, I think it's like that. It doesn't have to. I don't think the meaning is it has to be supremely negative. It's just somebody who wants it badly all the time.
Okay.
Like a hanger on kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than hanger on because it's also like leapfrog or something. Like you want to get ahead or something or get big. I don't know. I feel in our section of the internet, it's not as bad because we have. I mean, like the three of us specifically, just because we still follow a lot of people and know a lot of people who are like 100 follower accounts who have like 3 slurs in their name or something like that kind of thing. Where it's like
we're not exactly trying to make relatable teen images.
Yeah, but it's funny because you have to kind of keep. It becomes a conscious choice after a while to be careful about not leaning into it or something like that, because when you're on the internet for this long, you start to know the rhythms of how things kind of work a bit, kind of thing. Like you understand enough that, like, say, if I wanted to run NGO's social media account or something like that, I could do it, and I'd know how to maximize whatever this or that. I know kind of intuitively how to do it pretty well or something, right? Like,
right, we've learned how to throw people's heartstrings through these little text interchanges, and it feels unethical to do it when you know like that.
I said this another day, but I've heard tell of people who workshop jokes like a lot before they post them. And
I've heard of that too, and that's very funny to me.
Can you imagine, Leo, like if we DM back and forth?
Yeah.
What if I said he had green suspenders?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I've also heard people that like very carefully track the relationships between different people online. I mean, I know that like influencer people kind of thing, which I think is okay if in certain kind of ways, like some of the like fashion stuff, whatever, it's not like that bad to me. Like kind of like it can be fun or whatever, and if they're not being like psycho about it or something, that's fine. But there is a lot of people who just because it's partly their job and stuff, they kind of watch what other people's posts do. Like they know the numbers of, I might know what different tweets that I posted in the last day or something. I know which ones did good or which ones did bad or something like that, just from experiencing my account or something like that. But there's also people who have a lot of knowledge about what other people's tweets did. Like they know which ones did badly and which ones did good because they track that. Anyways, there's people who do that don't actually have any sort of like material business stake in it or something.
They just do it as hobbyists. It's a frightening thing. It's a lot like the creature from Jeepers Creepers.
Like they get really like it's workshopping plus knowing the metrics, which is like another stage beyond that of psycho to me, that like they would, get into it to the point where they get mad that they see someone else's tweet do well and they're like, mine got like 20% less or something like that, and I don't know. I feel like those people tend to be well, first, like that kind of mentality tends to get them in trouble in other ways, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that they end up being like, a lot of the time online, especially, it's very easy to be like a sex creep or something like that. And then
those people who they get into the gamified interaction part, and then they get really into it, and they want to press X to see the naked lady.
It's just antisocial, really. Like it's like they're behaving fundamentally antisocial.
Yeah.
You're never going to catch us doing anything bad like that, because we're, the worst thing that we do is we just make it like a joke that is a little off color or so. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But we still understand we're talking to people,
Sure.
We're just regular guys.
We're putting up our woke fog now. And,
yeah, that's right.
We're actually all multimillionaires, but yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Favorite swear words? Well, everyone knows my favorite swear word, I think. It's that special word.
Oh, yeah.
You got to say it 2 times. I'm not going to say it here. I haven't said it in a while. But we all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like the F word. I'm not even going to say it because that's disrespectful. But that's the key one to me. That's the anchor of the whole swear word family. Yeah.
To me, it's always it's probably because of my French Canadian ancestry. I like the religious based swearing, and I think as you get older, it seems like it becomes more and more appropriate to yell that at various times through the day than it is when you're a kid.
That's good. Yeah. No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, next question is, how do you guys avoid stupid arguments that aren't worth your time?
If I knew, I would tell you.
Yeah, it's a product of experience, but you have to break it down. I think if you can tell that somebody is just really upset and they're just gonna argue in bad faith because they want to be upset at somebody, that's an easy one. What's another tell?
When you can just tell that someone is reinforcing their own ideological narratives, like they have a very flat two-dimensional view of things, and that just comes through very clearly, and you're just going to be talking to, like, libertarianism 101 or communism 101 or whatever it is, like you're not talking to an actual thinking person.
Yeah, there's no nuance.
Yeah.
There have been no revisions in their science of Marxism.
Well, and they're not going to, like, they're just not going to listen to what you have to say. They're just going to find ways to assert their little storyline.
Yeah. What else is there? I know there's more.
There's a professor in Toronto who I know who she created like a program, and she put it in her Twitter profile so that when people click on her profile and want to like argue with her, she said just click on the program, which it's like a bot that she set up that it just goes through all the arguments that she goes through on a daily basis or something like that, and just it provides the argument for them so that she doesn't have to actually do it. So it's like if you're like a libertarian, you disagree with me, then just click here, and then kind of thing. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is pretty good. I usually don't like that kind of cunty stuff that people put on their profiles where it's just like, oh, well, I don't know. I saw something the other day where it was like preemptively like refuting people and like with
no, baseball is not a sport invented by Americans.
Exactly, like with the logical fallacies and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. I like that it's like, I don't know. Anytime someone kind of gets more elaborate with it, I can kind of respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the more useless the thing and the higher the level of effort, the more we respect it as a culture. I don't know if that's a sign that society is ending, so we can only love the most absurd inversions, like we're a bunch of Gianninis or what. But I like it.
I find these days that the things that I shouldn't engage with, I just automatically find boring already.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, I don't have like bad impulses to like get into stupid arguments. I just kind of go like, ugh. It's just
that guy. I don't know his real name. That guy Plato Machiavelli, who just retweets stuff from what's popular among the common people.
Yeah.
And it's really shocking to see how some people think. And you imagine an adult person who's able to think in these very strange directions that you'd immediately dismiss. It's kind of a nice exercise for having to adopt a completely different person's mind for a second, like you're an FBI profiler and you're looking for a cat burglar who also puts women's heads in an aquarium or whatever.
I like some of the stuff that he retweets because some of them are sincere and they're just insane, but some of them they seem like they're trying to craft like a viral tweet.
Yeah.
And it's not sincere. That's more insane to me that you were spending time to do that.
Like what's obviously like a 24-year-old white person trying to write like a 16-year-old black person but everything's a little bit off. And the references are so generic. It just makes you wonder why.
Yeah, it's like everyone's like interviewing for some kind of like Pepsi marketing job or something. You know what I mean? Like it's very
those jobs have all been filled. And guess what? They paid $22,000 a year.
Okay, let's do one more here. How about this one? If you watched the recent Anderson Cooper Stephen Colbert interview, I want to know what you think. Is Colbert going to hell? I don't need an explanation. A simple yes or no will do. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. How about you, Donald?
No.
All right. I'm gonna go not based on the interview, but based on the fact that he was on the Epstein guest list. Yes. So
Uh-oh.
That's my reason.
yeah, I did you guys see this interview that they're talking about here?
No, but I know I heard a
The
lot
only
about
thing
it.
I'd ask Anderson Cooper about is where to get my hair dyed a uniform shade of minky white.
Didn't he go to the island too?
Yeah, I took him there, in fact.
Yeah.
But that was for another purpose. I sold his kidney.
That's why I said that he would go to heaven, because in my religion, that we support that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw a clip of this interview, and I thought what Colbert was saying was really pretty nice. Like, it was kind of moving, and then after
Yeah.
about a minute 10 seconds, I was like, okay, next tweet. I just kind of like quit it out.
Yeah.
What was it even about?
Well, he
I'm
was
not aware.
talking about something to do with like how something like God's justice or God's mercy, or like why there's suffering in the world, like this kind of thing. And he had a pretty solid response to it. It was like,
Okay. So just a nice little bit of common theology, and for the folks on the TO.
He's sort of openly Catholic, and also on that kind of like liberal type of political spectrum, right? So I think he is a nice window into like a sensible theology for a lot of those types of people. But so I don't know. I felt pretty positively about it, and then like the next week, I see him on the Epstein list. I'm like, oh, that little fucker. After he's talking about like, suffering in the world is to teach you things, and whatever he said, I don't really remember exactly. But then what he's talking about, he's just justifying like, industrial rape of children. So it's like, all right, thanks a bunch, buddy.
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay, you guys want to do one more?
Sure.
All right, okay, so this is more for Donald than Tom, although I suppose Islam does recognize Jesus as one of the prophets. What does the H stand for in Jesus H. Christ?
Oh, that's a good question. Hughes. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It stands for holy. It's just an epithet. If you grew up in the 1930s, you would know that.
No, I think it's actually H is the Roman numeral for
Jesus.
420.
For the century that he's supposed to come back. I thought it was for Hussein.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like Barack.
Hussein, some people said he was the Antichrist. Maybe they were onto something. I don't know.
Really?
Don't you remember that was a massive evangelical thing? Obama the Antichrist. It's like he came from the faraway kingdom, and
Yeah. I thought you meant like Shia, like the grandson of the prophet.
No, not that, Hussein.
Remember that?
Man.
Yeah. Remember that guy? Sorry.
Here's a little suggestion, Islamic world. Get a few new names.
Do you remember that guy that would make the Obama videos go backwards so that it would be like, "Thank you, Satan"?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Remember the grandma or something. Yeah, remember the grandma was a great one, because it's like, I don't know, it made so much sense to that guy that did it. He was like, remember the grandma, because his grandma died. Yeah, that's a all-time great video.
Yeah, I like the idea of someone having like this memorial saying for their grandma. It's like, remember the Alamo. He just says it every now and again.
Grandma. Ooh, grandma, I miss you. I wish I could kiss and could hug you, girl. Oh, grandma, Mike John.
I guess the theory would have to be that he practices saying things backwards so that he does it right during major speeches or something. I don't know. He's like looking in the mirror, being like, yeah. Yeah. Satan's gonna be so mad if I screw up this speech or something.
Michelle's like, nailed it. Good job, honey. Yeah.
Michelle's dress slips to reveal a pulsating demon's tail. That's where her bicep should be.
And a spiral symbol, like a tattoo that's actively spiraling, like it's not animated.
We really should have listened to Pastor Roy Davis.
What did he say? Oh, is he the guy that promoted all this?
Yeah.
I see. Okay, well, shout out to Pastor Roy Davis.
Shout out. Rest in peace.
All right. And I think that should do it for this episode. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on there.
We love you all.
Yeah, at You Can't Win Pod. That's the Twitter. Okay.
Like, 5, subscribe.
Marijuana